So let's keep on with the drone technology. Okay, we are, I think, very much, I think so far it's sufficient with the we are sufficient with the performance of drones when we are countering, terrorism. All right, facilities when we are conducting counter-terror fight. And, but on the other side, there are some challenging factors that are, decreasing the performance of the drones. For instance, one of them is even they are flying from the 18,000 feet. When the drone is flying over Ağrı Tendürek, mountain, is different than it's, conducting its, operation over a very flat terrain, like in the Syria, in the Syrian border security. So it's, one of them is, I think, the terrain, and the second one is about the bad weathers, because if you want to, escape from the bad weather, it will immediately, decrease your operation capability, even they are, stopping the operation at that time. So in order to, tackle with this bad weather conditions, I think we need high altitude ones, like the Global Hawks, isn't it? So do you think that Turkey will, in the future, will be, capable of, producing this high altitude Global Hawks? And the second one is, I think this is in another convention, producing armed drones is different than producing combat drones. So also the Haluk Bayraktar in his recent speech says that we are very much, keeping investing on the combat drones. So I think that they are really necessary for, producing high altitude and when you are thinking about the threat perception of Turkey. And the second thing is that, please combine these two issues together. While Turkey is very much investing on the, drone technology, the terrorist organizations are also getting much more aware how to escape from this drone technology. So far we see that two things that they are doing. Maybe if they've got jamming capabilities, so they can do jamming. And the second one is maybe they can wear like thermal clothing, but this thermal clothing is not a, you cannot wear it and you cannot, carry it for a very long time. So it's also difficult for the terrorists, to wear those clothes. Or maybe in the media we saw that there were so many discussions taking place about the umbrella, if the terrorists are opening their umbrella, if they can, is it available for them to escape from the drone attacks? So what are the challenging factors for the drone technologies for our performance, and what are the countermeasures that are developed by that are accepted, adopted by the terrorist organizations in this respect?
Short answer, we need to focus on capabilities, not platforms. So in order to have persistent, unobstructed surveillance, intelligence and reconnaissance capability, we need to have all types of sensors, electro-optical, electromagnetic, all types of sensors over a large swath of area, like Syria, Iraq, all Middle East, all Eastern Mediterranean, Black Sea Basin, Caucasia. So, and in order to achieve such capability, high altitude drones are just one tool in a huge basket. You need to have different types of sensors, airborne, seaborne, land-based, space-based, and you need to have a very robust network capability. So my answer would be, the real question is that should we invest in such network, such nervous system? Yes, we definitely should. Our high altitude drones solution could be, but not the only solution, because we have an example like Global Hawk. Iran shut down one of the Global Hawks with a very rudimentary, if not ancient, air defense system. And we saw that Global Hawks, apart from that incident, we saw that Global Hawks in some areas like Persian Gulf failed to provide real-time actionable intelligence, as is the case with those tanker strikes. So having a toy, quote unquote, is one thing, but fully exploiting its capabilities is another thing. So we are right now conducting operations in northern Syria. The geographical landscape of area of responsibility of those operations are relatively limited. So tactical level or tactical plus level UAVs more or less meet our requirements, but we also need to have eyes and ears all over the Eastern Mediterranean, whereby we need all types of sensors which can observe, which need to observe large area, and in such cases we need to have platforms that can remain airborne for longer periods, that can carry larger amounts of payloads, and that have the ability of electrical power to support all those sensors and whatnot. That being said, we can move on to the transformation of Turkish capabilities. There is a motivation in that because, again, Turkish military and civilian security bureaucracy saw the benefits of unmanned systems, unmanned air vehicles in conducting effective operations. So that's a huge motivating factor. And then another huge factor is that while developing such systems, you need to develop your technological base as well, your capabilities, engineering capabilities, integration capabilities, sensor development capabilities. But then, as I said earlier, we have another threat in this field. We are developing our capabilities, our industry is producing good products, but so is the terrorist organizations. Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Libya, they all have become laboratories or test fields for different types of drones, coordinated attacks, various types of usage, and there has appeared a shadow defense industry in the region where different types of non-state actors or terror organizations share their know-how or technology with each other. Last year on November 10th, during the ceremonies, for Atatürk, there was an attack against the government building of Şırnak by PKK, and the type of, yes, fixed-wing drones, and the type of drones were identical to those used by Daesh. And very, very interesting factor is that PKK, with or without help from other organizations or Daesh, I don't know, PKK managed to modify those drones because they were remotely controlled drones, but PKK technicians, I can say, removed the autopilot mechanism, removed the remote control mechanism, and replaced it with a GPS-assisted autopilot. That's a very significant capability, and that's very dangerous because that modification can be done anywhere, anytime, by anyone. So, just carrying a couple of grams, or if not kilograms of explosives, they could, by help of God, they couldn't, but they could conduct a very effective and very dangerous attack. So, technology is advancing for both sides, for us and for them. And they are also, the terrorist organizations are also trying to develop effective countermeasures for the drones. This is like a cat and mouse race, but just there is a race. We never have the ability or luxury to, withdraw from the race. We need to invest more innovative technologies, tactics, and solutions to tackle with these issues and challenges. And we need to, I think about new innovative ways to detect and monitor and control that shadow defense industry, which poses a very serious threat to our economic capabilities, our social everyday life, and our military capabilities as well.
Arda, just another question to you, because you and me, we were together in this military raiders and security border, summit, and at that part, I think we were discussing a lot about the military raiders. So, how does this development of the military raiders affecting the capabilities of the, destructing or destroying these drones? So, for instance, we know that in 2021. The United States Marine will be using laser weapons. Do you think that really it will work? And the second one is that maybe just this GPS stemming or, for instance, electromagnetic steering, facilities, will they really work? If they would work, why didn't it work in the Saudi Arabia? For instance, because it was very, I don't know, but sometimes it's like tragicomic. As you said, Saudi Arabia has got so many, very capable with this air defense, and they've got also so many, jamming systems, but they're not using those jamming systems because those jammings are also jamming their own systems. Yes. And the second one is that sometimes if you are using those jammings, you cannot use the mobile phones. So instead of using their mobiles, they don't want to use jamming systems. So they were also discussed in this Arabian. So what kind of the countermeasures, in this regards to the military raiders, or is it important for us to, producing our own national military raiders as well?
Well, again,
and one
yeah.
thing, we are always saying that even the radars, for instance, there are some mobile radars. For instance, after the swarm attack to the Russia, you know, in Hmeym and Tarsus, they started to, you know, deploy so many mobile radars.
Yes.
But the problem is that even they can detect, they cannot identify the threat. So maybe it's a bird or it's a drone or something. So also there are some measures that about the voices. You know, they were taking voices. So can you also please answer?
Russia is a very, very nice example, and they proved to be, in a way, very effective to counter the drone threat, because they are in constant attack by swarm attacks to Hmeym and Latakia, and I think they are a good example to monitor. They adopted a way of countering drones through a combination of kinetic and non-kinetic measures. They deploy short-range, low-altitude air defense systems and around those bases, and they also deploy various types of electronic warfare systems, jamming systems, short-range, medium-range, and in several cases of swarm attacks to Hmeym base, they deployed coordinated uses of air defense weapons, missiles, guns, and electronic warfare systems together. And that's a very significant feat on behalf of Russians, and they are accumulating huge experience both in Ukraine and Syria. So that's a lesson learned for all of us. You have to have coordinated use of kinetic and non-kinetic measures together. And in order to achieve that, that's not enough to just get all those fancy toys, all those products and systems into inventory. You have to have a transformation in terms of training, doctrine, and also organization as well, to deploy kinetic and non-kinetic measures all together. Radar is a very crucial part of that organism, because there are various types of radars, early warning radars, air defense radars, short range, medium range, long range, and in order to detect and identify especially small body drones, small sized drones, and distinguish them from the background noise, background clutter, you need to have very powerful radars. And those powerful radars don't come easy, don't come cheap, because they require huge amount of power. They consume a lot of electricity. And in order to develop such radars, you have to have the next level in developing radars. You have to have GaN technology, FPGA technology, gallium nitride technology, and to manufacture effective and relatively cheap radars. And you have to be very power efficient in your systems, which is Russia is having some challenges as well. So there is a very huge technological challenge in developing effective, relatively small size, mobile, and very powerful radars. US is almost, or US has accomplished this, and they are, especially their Marines, are deploying GBAD radars, very effective, powerful radars to distinguish very small-sized targets. And there comes another lesson for us to study on, to develop a strategy against especially such technological threats like drones. You have to complete your organizational and doctrinal transformation, technological transformation, and the way you look and study all these examples. We need to study Russia very carefully, we need to study Ukraine very carefully, we need to study Yemen, Iraq, Libya very, very carefully and scientifically.